more on America's response to the virus, especially these new European travel restrictions. We're joined on the Squawk Newsline by Tom Friedman, New York Times foreign affairs columnist and good friend of the show. Tom, thanks for calling in this morning. You watched the president last night. You've seen the reaction, by the way, from the EU and European countries, which were not happy about some of the comments the president made. Was it enough?
Well, I watched it, Andrew, like any citizen and a small investor, and was really hoping to be reassured. I was not reassured, and the market clearly wasn't reassured. The way I look at the problem is this, Andrew. I think we have 5 problems. We have a logistics problem around tests. We have a cure problem, which doesn't exist. We have a political problem. We haven't agreed on a bailout. We have a global disorder problem, and we have an oil problem. If I had a chance to write the president's speech, I would have begun by saying I'm actually asking Jeff Bezos of Amazon to take a leave from Amazon and take over the effort to get test kits manufactured and distributed everywhere in America, number one. I'm asking Bill Gates to take a leave from Microsoft and oversee all efforts to come up with a rapid cure for this virus. Number 3, I'm suspending my campaign for re-election. I'm inviting Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer to Camp David. We are not going to come out until we agree on a national program for some kind of economic bailout. I'm calling on the G20 to set up a permanent committee of collaboration between all our countries. This is a global problem. It only has a global solution. And I'm calling on Saudi Arabia to immediately take steps to cut its production, to shore up the price of oil. This is not a time to be crashing our fracking industry or creating a bottomless oil market. I think steps like that, whether you chose my 5 or any others, that addressed all 5 problems specifically, would have translated into a little more confidence right now. And what people feel right now is that they have no confidence that we've got our arms around this problem.
I appreciate all the points you're making. I want to go to the political one, the idea of getting Nancy Pelosi and the rest of the crew down at Camp David. Let's just talk about what he did talk about last night in terms of what he wants, payroll tax, holidays, and the like, and the other stimulus measures. Do you think they will work, and do you think they're politically going to work?
I don't think anything works until people feel we've got testing, that we have our arms around this problem. My focus would be on testing, so we know the dimensions of the problem, so we can attack it properly, and creating a Manhattan Project around a cure. It's outside my skill set, Andrew, to know which sort of economic payroll tax or whatever is the right economic response right now. And that's one I would take a lot of time to study. We don't want to do things that we're really going to regret down the road.
Well, let me ask you about the geopolitical relationships, which is something I know that you know a lot about, which is to say, as we try to come up with a cure, but also to try to talk to our historic allies, the relationship between the U.S. and Europe may be strained by some of the comments that the president made last night. Also, as you know, we have an oil situation here. How do you see both of those issues playing themselves out?
Well, there's simply no trust between our allies and this president. There's blame on both sides, but certainly the way the president has approached the trade war from the beginning has created a lot of tension between us and our traditional allies. I would have added actually a 6th point on my list. I'd be lifting all the tariffs right now on China, temporarily suspending all of them. Let's get these supply chains as normalized as possible.
Wow. And in terms of the way, I know you're not a doctor, but in terms of the length and severity of this situation, a lot of people are looking at the situation in South Korea, they're looking at the situation in China, and they're saying, okay, the professional basketball team in China is coming back online 10 weeks later. Do you believe those numbers? Do you think that that's a realistic model to even think about? Also, given the fact that they've done some draconian things that I'm not sure we clearly haven't done yet, and I don't know whether we ever will.
I share Joe Kernan's skepticism about that. I just a country of 1.3 billion people color me dubious. That's all. I hope they're right. I pray that they're
15 new cases, Tom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 15 new cases with a straight face. I don't know.
I just
Someone just
find
wrote
it
something.
hard.
I was taking that as a good thing, maybe, that there are so many people we may not know about, but maybe we don't know about the real mortality rate either. We have no idea how many people that actually are succumbing to the disease. I don't know if we know anything. Do you, Tom, about what?
No, that's why I'm just really skeptical. I think what we do know is that two things can work. One is just incredibly pervasive testing, and the other is incredibly pervasive social distancing. And South Korea really led the way on testing that allowed them to limit their social distancing. China did social distancing. I think we have to do voluntarily the kind of social distancing China is doing. And it looks like we are beginning to do that. I've canceled everything personally. And at the same time, though, we have got to get this test bottleneck resolved and on a just emergency basis, because if you don't know who's got it, a friend of mine emailed me this morning. His daughter had a fever. She went to the local doctors, the hospital, to get a test. They had no test. This is in New York City. Right. So imagine if you're in rural Montana or wherever. So
Tom, the conundrum is, though, from what we're hearing and reporting, it sounds like we are still several weeks away from having it en masse in terms of the kinds of numbers that you're going to need to feel comfortable that you even have your hands around the numbers.
Yeah, and that's why I think that's what you're seeing reflected in what Mohamed El-Arian said this morning, and what you're seeing reflected in the Dow futures. People are doing the math, and we also have a real shortage of the N9 masks, which you need both if you've got the disease or if you're treating someone with the disease. And that's why we need just an all-out, push, World War II level to get the tests and the equipment that we need. And I would say, somebody brought this up, maybe it was Becky this morning, I'd be setting up field hospitals right now if these numbers are anywhere near what we expect they are. And just the little things that happened in the last 12 hours, the JetBlue flight, Tom Hanks, the NBA. I think today, Andrew, you're going to see all of those kinds of things amplified.